Welcome back, guys. League of Inches, and we've got another team preview for 2021. And this time I've got the mighty Wests Tigers, and I'm actually pretty excited about watching this team this year. I think there's a lot of positives for the team, which I don't think has been around for a few years. I think there's a lot of attacking threats, and I think there's some steel about them with some really good purchases. So I've got Big T with me. He has a page, Thebiggesttiger Tiger. And he's a bit mysterious as well with his mask on. So doesn't want the public knowing who he is. Doesn't want the fame or the fortune. I'll flick over to him. I'll let him have a quick.
I'll take the fortune.
I'll let him have a quick plug.
I'll take the fortune.
And how long he's been a Tigers fan for, and what made him a Wests Tigers fan. Take it away, Big T.
Thanks, man. And thanks also for inviting me on. I feel very privileged that I get to represent the Wests Tigers in different parts of social media, and so I appreciate being here on Inches. I'm part of a Chasingroos Podcast media network thing, all about the growth of rugby league, international football, and things like that. It's a fun podcast hosted by Michael Carboni. I also have a small little podcast that could call the Sports Best Friends, which is just a weekly rugby league one, just because I'm so obsessed with talking about football all the time that I'll do it even when people aren't even there. Yeah. And then, as you mentioned, the Biggest Tiger account. That's just that's again another outlet like you and a lot of other of your listeners that just you want to talk about football all the time, and not everyone around you wants to talk about football all the time. So you can do it through Insta and Twitter and Facey. That's what I do. But obviously that stuff hasn't been around forever. So the way I got into the Balmain Tigers was I grew up in that area. And so everything there is Balmain. The laundromat's Balmain, the pubs are Balmain, everything. There are paws painted on the street as I walk to school. And so that was an easy transition. Well, I shouldn't say easy transition. When we went to Wests Tigers, I was happy to go along eventually. And I've loved that team ever since. And so that's how I ended up being with the Wests Tigers. Rugby league is obviously the greatest sport on earth. And so I was a little disheartened when we merged, but it was definitely the best way to go. And after 1 or 2 years of soul searching, I realised that I couldn't leave rugby league alone, and the Wests Tigers were really my team. So here I am, 20 years later. I've been a Wests Tigers fan longer than I was a Balmain fan. So big excitement about this year. As you said, the steel and the defensive steel and the attacking flair that we've got this year, I agree with you. That's what's making me very excited about this year.
100%. And I have to confess, I know most people know I'm a Para fan, but I have a soft spot for the Wests Tigers. My pop, as I've sort of talked about in the past, did have a couple of seasons at Western Suburbs. So I do have a soft spot for the club, and I'm wishing nothing but success. Pretty much every year they take the field.
Oh, thanks, mate.
Let's get stuck into 2021. There has been a lot of talk and a lot of positivity around the club for mine. Who's your best signing?
Yeah, I reckon it's between two, and amazingly you nailed it. Just showing off how good you are at this of Inches. That I reckon the steal bit has come from James Taumau. I'm so excited about that signing. He was such a great forward last year and a great captain for Penrith, and we saw what Penrith did. So I'm really excited about him helping Madge with that cultural shift that we've been chipping away at for probably, since Tim Sheen's left. So hopefully James was the right person to help us with that. And I think the captaincy was a great idea. And then the attacking flair, I'm so excited about Dane Laurie. I know that they're both from the Panthers. And so I don't know how Panthers fans feel about it, but Dane Laurie looks, not only is his mo and hair and whole facial features just an absolute sex fest. I'm so excited about his whole look, but him attacking as well in the fullback role during those trials, he just looked exactly like what we needed. And so Dane, attacking flair, James, defensive steel and leadership. I think they're both such great pickups, and they're going to be the cornerstones of the real difference that we'll have this year.
Yeah, I've got to agree with both. I want to add James Roberts to the mix as well, more so because I think there's a lot of upside to what he can bring to this club. If he can get his attitude right, which I think McGuire's the best coach for him to do that. And a club that's a bit out of the spotlight. I think he's been with too many big clubs, which has sort of affected his mental frame. I think if he can get that right, which I'm predicting a big 2021 for him. I've actually got him on my super coach, so I hope he does. But I also like the Tamo side of it, more so on the leadership things for the club. He's such a good leader.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think a forward can bring so much to a club, but he does. And it's just his presence. And to be named captain of it, he was the obvious choice. I think a lot of people outside the club said, he's only just got there. But for mine, he's the obvious choice, and he can lead that club to a lot of success. He's just done it with Penrith. He sort of built that up. I helped it. Obviously, there was a few others in there, but he's a really big cornerstone for that club this year. And I know we've got that, but what about a loss from 2020 season that you can look at and go, you know what, I wish he stayed around and he'd really improved his team?
Yeah. Look, I want to just quickly pick up on two great things you said there. When Mbai turned up, he was also made captain straight away. So you can see that there's a bereft of leadership and cultural movement there, which is why I wasn't surprised James Tamar was given it straight away, because the squad really needed that really since Robbie left. And the other thing you said about Roberts is coming with Madge. They were together back in the Rabbits when Roberts first started, and Madge got rid of him. And so for Roberts to see that about him and identify that he's the kind of coach who's not going to take shit or whatever, and then want to come back to him, also says a lot about their relationship and what Madge has already set up in their relationship, 5, 10, 8 years ago, 150 games ago. So I'm really excited about that. The player that we've lost is obviously Marshall. Benji Marshall is probably, I'm happy to have the debate with people about if he's an immortal or not. And I hate having the immortal chat because, I think that it's problematic and whatever. He's obviously a walk-in Hall of Famer. And I think there's a real good debate about whether or not he could become an immortal. But I see he's on the back end. I can see that maybe him and Robbie are an overhang of and flags of past success that might not be working now at the club. And so I can see why he moved on. If the Tigers can't win this year, I want South to win it because I would love to see Benji Marshall with another ring. And I think him winning a grand final at the beginning of this year and at the end of his career would also really help me in my debate about Benji being an immortal. So he's a big loss. I know that if you talk to kids still today, 8, 10, 12-year-olds that are fans, Benji Marshall's the GOAT. They're one of their favourite players. And anyone 20 years ago, Benji was your favourite player. So for someone to do that for 20 years in league and union is just incredible. And so he's going to be a big loss for us.
Oh, mate, 100%. I have to agree. I know probably a lot of people probably sitting in thinking, they haven't mentioned Harry Grant. That's crazy. But for mine, he was the loan. He was on a loan deal. So I don't consider him necessarily – he is a loss, obviously. It would be good to have him there. But I think Benji Marshall's been the cornerstone of that club. And it was always known that Harry Grant was going back to the club, even though some people like to think he was going to stay. But it was pretty public knowledge that he was always going to go back. So Benji's a massive loss.
Yep.
Just that culture, but it is, I guess, time to move on for the club. And I think most Tigers fans hold him in the highest regard, and he will be, for mine, an immortal in years to come, and deservedly so. What about we look into the crystal ball, and what's something you look at for the club and you go, you know what, this is the reason why we're going to have success this year?
Well, I think it's the Leiluas because they've never played together. Last year, they were up and down, particularly Joey. But if we can get peak Joey, feeding Nofaluma on the outside, that's incredible. He is an incredible footballer for the Roosters, for Canberra, for everyone who's played with. He's had highlight reels. And so if we can get that peak Joey, then with Nofaluma's try-scoring abilities and strength and speed and his passion for the club, if we can get that side working really well, incredible. And then the other side of that's Luciano on the other side of the field. And so we can see his relationship with Brooks developing. Dwayne, he's such an incredible 5'8", and he played 5'8" all the way through high school and reserve grade in rugby union and rugby league. So his should be a 5'8", was only just jammed in a fullback at South. So with Luciano on the left hitting those great holes and his incredible enthusiasm, and then Joey on the other side, if we can get the Leilua brothers firing, then I can't see us doing anything worse than the bottom top four, because they're just going to be, that's forward pack and backs, two cornerstones, and I just see those two being really pivotal.
Yeah, mate, I do agree with that. I've also mentioned the Madge effect, more so in the fact that he's finally getting the players that Madge likes to coach and likes to have around, and the team for mine is looking more like that Madge style of team where it's gritty. If something goes against them, they're not going to kick stones. They're going to get back in and go, you know what, all right, let's go roll our sleeves up here and let's get the ball back. which is the sort of players you want. And you have mentioned that our little brothers, Luciano from mine, when he was leaving the Dragons, I didn't really rate him too much. I thought, oh, yeah, he's going to be an okay signing, but he'll probably be in and out of first grade. But the way Madge has transformed him into, I believe, one of the better second rowers in the comp, and he's one of the more dangerous ones, is just lethal. And I think having that sort of match style now, I know some of the fans over the years have probably been impatient with Maguire, with what he was trying to do in the club, and he is finally getting there. He's finally getting exactly the team he wants. I believe it's just going to be positives here on out. What's something that you're concerned about, though? There is some positivity, but there's got to be something you sit back and go, or I'm just not too sure because of this reason we can win the comp.
Well, my biggest concern for this year really is that we lose Magic Round. So I've not been a Magic Round before. I've not been a Suncorp before. We're playing on the Friday night against the Newcastle Knights, and so if we win that game, I'm just going to be flying the entire time because I'll enjoy all the games and enjoy being a Suncorp. I'm going with a whole bunch of people because I'm from Sydney, so it's going to be a real weekend for me, and it'll just be way, way, way better. I can already feel the pressure on myself that if we lose at the beginning, I've got to feel that all weekend, and I've got to listen to people, when I'm at the pub or at other games, and they ask, who you're down here for, and I go the Tigers, and they go, oh, they were, blah blah blah, and it's a sad conversation. That's just going to put a small dampener on the weekend. It'll still be great, but that's probably my biggest concern for the year.
Yeah. For mine, I've got to say, I've mentioned on a couple of other team previews, when a club signs so many players, there is that time where there's a gelling period and you've got to get players to gel and form those combinations, which don't happen overnight, unfortunately. So even on paper, you might have a red-hot side, but just because the gelling's not there yet, it's not quite happening on the field. I just think there's got to be some time for patience there for Tigers fans. They've now got a really good squad that I think they can build the next 2-3 years with. Just do not lose. Just don't throw everything out of the basket, so to speak. If something doesn't happen over the first few weeks, it's going to be a matter of working at it. You've got the right players and the right environment for mine around the club now. And success will definitely be coming. If it's not this year, it'll be next and 2023. What about your final thoughts? Where do you see the season going for the Tigers, and where do you see them finishing?
I honestly think I see a second. I can't see South being. I mean, they were great last year, and they've gotten better with Jai Arrow and Benji. So South, I can really see beginning the minor premierships and seeing us in the grand final. But I really see the Tigers coming second because I take that gelling comment, and I think that we will be better next year than we are this year. But I also just think that we were good last year in patches and only lost a few by small margins. And so we take those small margins and flip them, and we get better. I just see us being one of those Smokies, kind of like Titans in the second half of last season, where we just get on a run and do what we did, or other teams have done in other years, where you just didn't expect them and then they came out and blew everyone away. I see this team as doing that. I think the other winger, not Nofo, whoever we end up jamming in the other wing is probably our biggest hole. But outside of that, I'm really happy with everyone else in every other position. So, I see second, and I'm told over and over again that that's too ambitious, and I'm happy to be told that. I understand that most clubs want to be up the top, but I see that, and I see Melbourne third and Penrith, Canberra fourth. So that's where I'm hoping the top four ends up. Where do you see us?
Look, to be honest, and some Tigers fans might hate me for this, but I've got you sort of edge of the eight. I see you sort of around that 7th to 11th in that bracket, and I see the competition this year as very bunched, where there's groups of teams in each bubble. So I've got, say, your South Sydney Rabbitohs, your Raiders, and your Storm as your top teams, and I've got your Eels, Penrith, and sort of Roosters, the next teams, and then so forth. So I've got a lot of teams in a lot of those little bubbles, and I think you're in the third bubble. So I think you're definitely up there. A lot's going to happen with injuries this year for mine, and so the better squads will have the better success. And I think you do have some good depth this year, which hasn't been in the club for a while. There is some decent players that are playing reserve grade this year, this week that I've noticed. And if you can stay healthy, I can definitely see you edging on the 8. I don't see some pundits that think they're wooden spoons this year, but I don't see wooden spoon happening at all. I think it's a battle for the
Thanks,
eight.
mate.
No, I've got you locked in for battle of the eight.
Great. I'll take that.
There we go. Look, big team. These are always.
And you didn't say ninth, which is a terrible joke. So I'm glad that you didn't say ninth. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
I don't want to bring that up. So avoid ninth, please. I actually, as I said, soft spot. I would like to see you make the eight. So Big T, love
Thanks,
your
mate.
work. As I said, Lee, have one last plug of where people can catch you and what are these podcasts and things like that.
Yeah, Chasing Kangaroos, Grow Rugby League International Podcast, and Sports Best Friends is an NRL one. So on both of those two, you can find me. And thanks for the plug. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about football. This has been great.
No worries at all. I love talking footy myself. So good luck to the mighty Wests Tigers this year. I'm sure we'll have some chats throughout the year, and I'll probably get you back on. And we'll go from that. And good luck to the Wests Tigers in 2021.
And to Para.
Cheers. Thank you.